Imagine the world and your life in 10 years. Personally, I hope to be working in Boston or San Francisco, maybe in a lab curing cancer or working on nanotech. Who knows, maybe traveling to Hawaii or Fiji. But none of these things can happen if all of these places are underwater. The effects of climate change are already becoming clear. Natural disasters such as floods, droughts, and wildfires are becoming more common and more severe. The average amount of rainfall in California has dropped off by about 30%, and the number of autumn days with increased fire warning has increased dramatically. Also, the average temperature has increased by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which doesn't seem like a lot, but in terms of temperature, it is. For example, for each degree Fahrenheit that the ocean warms, the sea level rises by about 4 feet. That's crazy. The ocean warming also creates problems as it destroys ecosystems and makes the ocean more acidic, which creates problems for the 3 billion people living near coasts, almost half of the world's population. And anyway, the other half will feel the effects of climate change anyway, so this is a global problem. By 2050, in only 30 years, tons of global cities on coasts will be flooded, and the homes of 300 million people will be underwater. In 2019, in the US, 28% of carbon emissions were from transportation. Cars, trains, planes, boats, anything that all run on gas. This is why biofuel is the future. Biofuel is carbon neutral and it burns clean, but current biofuels are expensive to produce and they use land that would normally be used for agriculture, which makes them not economically viable. But this is where Algexx comes in. Introducing Algexx, where we believe that these issues can be solved by focusing on the production of genetically modified algae biofuel. At Algexx, we plan to replace all gas in the transportation industry. We will be using tubular bioreactors as the base for our boxes. At Algexx, we plan to use tubular photobioreactors, which contain green algae that absorb CO2 and produce lipids, where the lipids can be extracted and then used to produce biofuel. We will insert the tubular photobioreactors into clear boxes to create algae boxes that can be placed in areas without much space or in cities to filter carbon and flue gas. And these boxes will have multiple layers for solar light absorption and oil refinement to enhance the process of creating the biofuel. Here is where Algexx is really different from existing biofuel companies. We will use genetically modified algae to increase the growth rate and to increase the oil production so that our algae is more economically viable. We hope to double the amount of lipids produced per algae cell and decrease the time it takes for each algae cell to reproduce by 30%, which greatly decreases our costs. We have to keep in mind the costs of production though, including the land area to be purchased and the genetic modification of the algae itself. But after adding these together in our cost analysis, our overall cost is predicted to be around $1.30. However, the genetic modification costs are also decreasing, so our cost overall could be even lower as time goes on, which is a huge win as current algae biofuel produced with tubular photobioreactors, which is what we're planning, is around $5.80 per gallon. And so our cost is about 80% lower. Our predicted cost of $1.30 per gallon is also pretty similar and even slightly less than the cost of petroleum currently, which is around $1.50, making us competitive with current fossil fuel companies, which is amazing. That's a huge win. So let's talk about how we're going to do this, the specifics of the genetic modification. We'll be using a green microalgae called C. reinhardtii, and we'll be genetically modifying it to have the enzyme present in Brassica napus called BNDGAT2. And Brassica napus is a type of rapeseed plant, part of the mustard family, that basically has very rich oil seeds. And like farmers, we will be combining these two crops essentially and creating the perfect algae specimen for our purposes with very rich oil. Through genetic modification techniques, this enzyme will be present in the endoplasmic reticulum of the algae cells, which will then produce more triglycerides and increase the concentration of the lipids or fat in the algae cells. And when we produce more oil per acre of algae, this greatly increases our economic viability and helps us decrease our costs. We will also use prolines to enhance the growth of the algae by genetically engineering the algae to overexpress glutamine synthetase,
which is an enzyme already present in the algae cells. And by increasing the concentration of this enzyme, we increase the concentration of 2-hydroxyoxyproline, which is a metabolite that impacts growth rate. So basically, by enhancing the concentration of the proline, we make the algae grow faster, which is super cool and which helps our production costs. And as genetic modification techniques continue to improve over time, we can expand our progress and improve our techniques to eukaryotic algae species and other species such as plankton. Our improved production rate will allow us to lower our costs, which makes us competitive with petrol. And selling the oil will be our main source of revenue. We also will sell boxed bioreactors to carbon-producing factories. And the factories will receive subsidies from the government while we produce the biofuel for them to sell. Then, we will locate areas of high carbon emissions, such as the factories or offices or other areas in cities. And once we locate these areas, we will filter the air at a large scale by implementing our boxes on the roofs to filter the flue gas. And Algexx is different because our oil will be produced on open farms and refined on site. And algae is super unique because algae, unlike other biofuels that take land away from crops, can be grown in deserts or otherwise unusable land, so it won't be competing for space. Finally, we will sell the oil produced by the algae to eco-friendly companies as biofuel. And current biofuel production methods have been proven to leave much of the potential oil behind. So by genetically modifying the algae to grow faster and to produce more oil, we can cut down on our production costs and improve our revenue. In 10 years, our goal is to have all transportation running on biofuel. Our biofuel will be distributed to more locations globally, and we will have global farmlands. Algexx will also be leading global efforts to combat climate change. Visit our website, algexx.com, to learn more about our company and to read more about Algexx, creating a world entirely run on biofuel. Thank you.